Hello, how are you? I've uh, I've heard that you've had some some tough things going on, and you're a little upset, and you've had some negative emotional things going on, and thought maybe you needed to talk. So, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. We've all been through it. Um, so I thought I could, I don't know, maybe sit down with you and maybe try to give you some advice. Get comfortable. I see you've uh, got yourself something to drink. I do too. It's coffee, decaf. It's late, and I don't really need any caffeine this late because you see, I'm trying to relax too. I don't really um, have any issues or anything that I'm trying to deal with right now. I just want to relax. And I chose coffee because it's a hot beverage. I like hot beverages in the evening, but I don't really need all that caffeine right now. So decaf coffee seemed like a good choice. So I know that when when things happen, particularly involving people that you like or even love, um, or people that you trust, maybe they betray that trust. There's tons of reasons why you could be in a less than optimal emotional state. I think that when there are other people involved, it may be more difficult for some people. And to some degree, I think it may also be a little easier for some people because to a large degree, there is a good indication of where to focus your energy for corrective action. It's with the person. Whereas uh, if you're depressed or anxious, you may be able to identify the source of the stress, but sometimes maybe not. But when there's another person involved, it's it's pretty pretty black and white. If somebody has wronged you, then that is the stressor, and that is what you should deal with. Now, when someone causes you this emotional chaos, emotional baggage, whatever you want to call it. If another person causes you to have bad feelings or negative feelings, there are a few things that you can do to alleviate the situation. One thing, probably the best thing, and this is counterintuitive, but best thing is to forgive the person. Now this is counterintuitive because many people think that when you forgive somebody, you are sort of giving them a pass, or saying that what they did to you was okay, and that you give them permission to treat you badly. And that's not what it is at all. Forgiveness, in my opinion, is solely for your benefit. Because, and I'll use an analogy that was explained to me a long time ago. I think explains it pretty well. I can't remember the person's name, so I can't give any credit to the individual. But I do remember the message and the analogy that he used. I think it's appropriate. The analogy was that when you hold on to anything negative, call it emotional baggage, whatever you want to call it, it's very similar to dragging garbage around with you. When the garbage is fresh, it's heavy, and it's a lot of stress on you to carry it around. It smells bad. After a while, it starts to rot. It may produce liquids. It starts to break down, and it just gets worse and worse over time. And when you forgive someone, it's the emotional equivalent of dropping the bag of garbage. Now, you might have good reasons for carrying the bag of garbage around in the first place. That's really all emotional baggage is. It's just a bag of garbage. Because it happened in the past, and the past is gone. There is no past. It's an idea. It's a concept. It's like the future. The future is a concept. It's not real. It's not tangible. It doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is right now. And that's what ideally everybody would focus on. Little kids have the right idea. They live in the now. Animals do as well, because they have no concept of time. So that's somewhat off the point. But it makes sense to drop the bag. And in theory, it's so simple to just drop the bag. So how do you do this? Well, there are two maybe three very important things that you can do. First one is talk to somebody about it. Someone that you're close to, possibly somebody that would be affected as well in the same or similar way. I'll give you an example. I had an issue. I won't get into detail, but I had an issue with a group of people, and I went and talked about the issue and how I felt about it with a sibling, just so we could try to reconcile how we felt about it. And when you talk to someone else who could also be affected, and the sibling that I talked to was affected, we talked about it, and we kind of got on the same page about how we felt about it. It's good because it gives you perspective, and it also allows you to speak you can communicate what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and you can kind of bounce ideas off each other and sort of like in negotiating, they say that you develop your position. It's kind of like that. So that's one benefit that can be gained. So I think it's important to do that. And the second tip is to do what I call an emotional purge. Just get everything out. And there are a few ways that you can do this. Some are healthy ways, some not so healthy, some unhealthy ways. Some people like to get violent and throw things. They physically attack people, usually the source of the stress. Some people yell and scream. Some people just kind of emotionally shut down. And that's not really a source of an emotional purge, but that does happen. So some positive ways. One is to confront the person and speak to them about it. That can work. It depends on the people involved, on their willingness to talk about it. But there are also other non-confrontational ways to deal with it. I'll tell you what I did. I decided that I was going to write an email to the person, and that I was going to not hold anything back. I was going to put everything in the email. I wasn't going to censor my language. I wasn't going to observe social niceties. I was just going to be completely honest and let the person know exactly where I stood. And that's what I did. And I recommend this. So I composed an email, but I did not compose the email in my, actually in an email draft. I composed it in Microsoft Word because I felt it would be easier to edit it and revise it. So I did that. And I decided that I wasn't going to be in a rush to get this email out. So I typed up the email. Took probably 45 minutes to an hour to compose the first draft. And I said almost everything I wanted to say. And I decided that I wanted it to be perfect and I didn't want to leave anything out. So whatever I had just kind of on the tip of my tongue went into that first draft. And so I typed it up. When I felt my brain starting to wind down a little, saved it, closed it, went to bed, and I slept pretty well. So the next day, when I got up first thing, this was still on my brain. I wanted to put some things in the email that I had left out. So, went to the computer, turned it on, booted up. I opened up this email that I had spent an hour composing, and I started reading it, and found a suitable place for the new ideas that had come to me, and I put them in there. And just like the night before, I didn't hold anything back. The bad language, the rude wording, it was all in there. So it was exactly how I felt and exactly what I wanted to say at the time. So I put what I wanted to say in there. And I would say that this process went on for probably the next 2 days. I would get an idea, open up the email, put it in there. I would read it from beginning to end and change things that I wanted to change and made sure that it was perfect. I even sent it to this other person that I had spoken to. I said, here, read this and tell me what you think. I let my wife read it as well, and she provided some input. Which leads me to my next tip, is have if you can find a completely neutral third party to discuss this with, then I would do that as well. But if you're not comfortable with that, the individual that I mentioned earlier, if you have one in mind, will suffice. But I find that it's best to get more than one opinion. So, I typed up this email. I spent probably 3 or 4 days revising it and adding things. And by the time I had gotten everything on there, I really didn't even feel like sending it, because even though I didn't send the email, I had gotten all of that stuff out of my head. And once you get it out of your head, obviously you're going to be thinking more clearly, and you're going to be able to make more logical, rational decisions instead of rash, emotional ones. And that's very valuable, because when we act emotionally, we tend to do stupid things that we regret. At least I do. That's another benefit, is to be thinking with a clear head. You don't want to have chaos going on upstairs, especially if you have decisions to make, because then you can plan your next move and decide the best course of action. So, that's how I purge when I have bad stuff going on that's affecting me emotionally. So the next thing, if I had to give another tip, would be to obviously alter the nature of your relationship with this person, either in fact or in your head. Now, the old adage goes, forgive and forget. I'm not so sure I agree with that. The reason is, when you forgive someone, you are allowing yourself to move on without being bogged down anymore by the emotional baggage. But when you forget, you are moving on as though nothing ever happened. And that is dangerous. So, forgive, yes, but don't forget, because you still have to protect yourself. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about protecting yourself and doing what's best for you. You have to realize what you could have done, if anything, to prevent what was done, what was said. Recognize and understand that that can happen again, and plan for it. You don't have to agonize over it. It's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, don't put yourself in that position again. You live, you learn. And that's very important. So, I don't know if this was helpful. I hope that you were able to relax a little bit. I hope talking to me helped. And keep me posted, because you're my friend and I care about you. So you're welcome to stay as long as you want. You want to, stretch out on the couch, get some sleep. You look a little tired. That's fine. I'm going to finish my coffee, relax a little bit myself. So, just take care. Try to relax a little. I'll talk to you soon.